saw him dressed as Egypt and decided to shoot.
All right, a murder mystery in Cleveland. Another one of the stories we're looking at in our Crime Time segment. Still with us, helping us tonight, Joe Ested, former police officer, former sheriff's deputy, and Jennifer Shen, former director of the San Diego PD Crime Lab. Our next story comes to us from WEWS in Cleveland. No new leads in a transgender man's murder.
Nearly every waking minute.
His little serious look.
Vivian Powers-Smith says she thinks back to the last time she saw her little brother in early June.
And he was very proud of who he was, never ashamed of who he was, and I think that's a lot.
Brian, who sometimes went by the name Egypt, confidently sported studded sunglasses and long, colorful braids. And his older sister says she can't help but wonder if his zest for life and transgender identity made him a target for hatred.
For me, I don't know if it was something random or if someone just saw him dressed as Egypt and decided to shoot.
At least 27 transgender people were murdered in the U.S. just last year, according to the Human Rights Campaign.
They never get justice. It's never solved. It's like people treat them like they're just expendable.
With no leads in the investigation, Powers-Smith has no idea just yet if her brother was the victim of a hate crime.
Somebody knows something. And it's hard that, you know, we don't know anything.
And even if police do receive substantial tips, Brian Powers' murder could be difficult to prosecute as a hate crime under current state law, as Ohio is currently one of 14 states where hate crimes don't include gender identity or sexual orientation.
My little brother is gone, and somebody stole him. You didn't have the right to do that. No matter if he was gay, straight, transgender, heterosexual, you don't have the right to take somebody's life.
And as Akron police are still searching for Brian's killer, Vivian says she's searching within herself to find forgiveness for her brother's murderer.
If you know what happened, I get it. Some people don't want to talk, they don't want to get involved, but what if this was your relative? What if this was your son, your brother, your nephew? You would want to know.
All right, how do you figure out if this was a random shooting or a targeted attack? What kind of evidence are you searching for? Jennifer Shen, what are investigators going to look for here to try to figure out first the nature of this murder?
Well, there's probably a lot of investigative work that needs to be done here. Who were his friends? What kind of interactions did he have recently? Were there any people who had issues with him in particular? But as far as the evidence goes, you know, it depends on how much there is. But I can tell you that in my experience with these kinds of investigations, every single thing that can be tested will be tested in those laboratories to see if they can come up with any leads, any names that could at least start them down the path of who might have done this.
Joe Ested, at this point, there's no new leads. It's not even clear if he was targeted or if this was somehow random.
That is correct, Vinny. As of right now, the information we have, we don't know exactly what it is, but a homicide. So you got to work it like a homicide. I would use the media on a reward, talk to friends, families, interview people. I mean, you really don't have a lot of information to put anything else but a homicide. So you have to investigate it and work it as just that.
Final story tonight comes from KIVI in Boise, Idaho. A woman is tased after pulling mace on an officer.
Idaho State Police have charged a Boise woman with 2 felonies and multiple other charges after a dangerous incident on I-84 near Meridian. According to a statement given by Idaho State Police, on Friday, a trooper witnessed a vehicle driving erratically and attempted to make a traffic stop. The woman driving has been identified as 21-year-old Corinna Weymouth Bell, who officials say failed to stop and reportedly pointed a mace canister at the trooper. That led to the trooper tasing Weymouth Bell. She was taken to a nearby hospital and later booked into Ada County Jail, where she faces charges of eluding a police officer, possession of marijuana, and driving without insurance.
All right, it's a quick piece of video, but the cameras are everywhere now. We know that. Was this a justifiable use of force. Joe Ested, I'll start with you.
Yes, sir, Vinny. Thank you. A lot of people don't understand that a lot of training goes into investing in our police officers. So their job is to constantly assess and reassess. The job is dangerous by itself, but we get trained to do the job. This officer did exactly what he was trained to do. He saw the mace can. He saw she had looks like some type of belt in her hand. She approached him. You're trained to create distance. He stepped backwards, still giving her commands. She disregarded him. She closed the door, and he deployed his taser. Excellent job. Excellent police tactics.
Jennifer Shen, you know, there's that cliche, routine traffic stop, but none of them end up being routine. I mean, so often we see things that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Here you've got a motorist with a can of mace going after the police officer.
Yeah, and I think actually I agree that I thought the officer did a great job. They do get a ton of training to handle these things because you're right. You never know what you're going to get when you pull a car over, or when, particularly if you head to a domestic violence situation, you never know. So they have to use their training to handle these situations. And I thought he did a really great job. She was very aggressive, approached him, slammed the car door, had something in her hand, plus the mace can. I thought he showed great restraint.
Jennifer Shen and Joe Ested, always great to have you two on the program. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vinny.
And still ahead.
Next week, Court TV will